Good.
Hello. Welcome to our special meeting. I have the agenda here. First item here is a roll call. Tony, would you be able to help with that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair Charlie. And I will start with you, Chair Charlie Harrington.
Present.
Vice Chair Nicholas Markman.
Present.
Committee Member Wayne Stacey.
Present.
Council Liaison Jane Cooper.
Present.
And we have heard from Marika Bergson that she is running late, and also from John Sherm that he has asked to be excused.
Great. My understanding is we don't need to ask for public comment on the roll call. Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, great. Everyone did a great job. Okay. So in today's meeting, we only have one agenda item. It's listed here as number 2, discussion and possible action on the 2026 priorities report. This is in front of you. It was attached to the agenda. I think if folks are up for it, I'd like to do this sort of Amazon style. Let's spend 2 to 3 minutes reading it, and everyone has a pencil and you can mark up notes. I have some commentary sort of leading in. I tried to do a good job sort of like continuing the theme that we discussed in our last meeting. I would say that the area that I think needs a lot of help is probably the most important one, which is our request to the City Council in terms of priorities. But I guess I'll withhold my comments until after when everyone reads it. So I'll check back in about 3 to 4 minutes. Time check. How's everyone doing? A couple more minutes, or we'll give it 1 more minute. Okay. Okay, cool. So hopefully you've seen that the structure here is largely the same as last year's letter. And I was thinking maybe we could go through section by section and talk about that and see if there are any particular comments. And then we can also have a general discussion about the overall letter as well. But to kick things off, in the introduction, this is largely the same as last year's. The point here is to remind who's ever reading this, but City Council as well, what our goals are. The only major change we had here was that I know the APM was modified, so instead of 2 separate reports, it's now 1 report. And you'll see that this letter is both a report on the things that we did last year and our priorities. So there were really no changes here. But are there any comments or questions on the introduction? Okay, hi, Marika. Okay, Marika, we're going through, we had folks read the letter. Did you have a chance to read it, the draft of
Yes, I
this?
did.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
in fact, I have brought it with me.
Okay, great. So we're going through section by section to see if there are any comments about the section. So we just did the introduction. No concerns there is what it looks like. Okay. Cool. So next section is on recapping our 2025 priorities. Here, I listed our 2 priorities from last year, and I provided a brief update on each of those. And I would say the update on the ADA accessible viewing platform, I worked with Tony to get the language there in terms of the specifics. And then as it relates to the lanes developments, maintenance and repairs, Tony provided me with the list of completed maintenance and repair work, which were those 3 lanes. And then I gave a brief update on the lanes subcommittee. And I gave a couple of the conclusions there. And I didn't think it was necessarily necessary to put a full report or attach the full report, but I wanted to highlight a few of what I consider to be interesting takeaways as little teasers for people to take a deeper look. So I'll pause to see if anyone has comments about this section on recapping 2025. Jane.
The only question that I'm asking is, back at the very beginning of it, you said develop the artist's view and then continue supporting lanes development, maintenance, repairs, including Centennial Park. But we really didn't address Centennial Park this year, did we?
No, we did not. I think that our goal last year was, the way I framed last year's goals was we had 7 things in 2024.
Right.
And we clumped those
Right.
together. And I was basically saying.
But I meant, do you want to say, but that one goal was not achieved or wasn't focused on, or,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
do
can
you
say
want to
that.
have any otherwise, I think it's a little confusing to say.
You know what I think I could do? I could say a number of the lanes needed maintenance and repair, including Centennial Park. The completed work that was able to be accomplished were these 1, 2, and 3.
I think
And then
that-
additional documentation can be found in the study where
Right.
we've got a full list. Okay.
Yeah, because I think Centennial always is hanging out there as an
Repair.
area
Yeah.
of focus, and I don't want to give the impression to
Yeah.
the group that it's something that's already started. Or,
Yeah. And I can say the only things that were, and Tony, this is true, the only things that were completed last year were those 3 projects, or are those just the highlights
Yeah, I mean, apart from routine maintenance.
apart from routine maintenance?
yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's important. It sort of addresses that Centennial Park is still outstanding in terms of what we want to do and look into. And then I think it is a good lead into the deeper research that we did. Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments on this section? Marika, how did you feel about?
I thought that was fine. On the Centennial Park, not to beat that one. I'm just wondering why, if that really wasn't a focus of the work that happened, why we have it as a paren there.
That was the paren that was
That
this
was
is
what
literally
that was.
copy paste from
Okay,
last
that's
year.
a copy paste.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I just wanted.
Yeah, it's there
It's there.
because it was there,
It's there because it was
but
there.
then it was an area that
That's what.
for
That's why-
many reasons,
Yeah.
it didn't get focused on as originally hoped.
The only thing I would say on the study, I thought it was, I mean, this was all very consistent with what we shared at the last meeting. So,
Yeah.
To me, it was just consistent with that. I think that the one thing, this study is obviously preliminary. We reported on it. It's, sort of in its draft form, and it's still a work in progress. It hasn't sort of been
Yep.
formally adopted, accepted and adopted, et cetera. So I had a question about whether we wanted to add something to make that clear, meaning that it's still a work in progress, and that, we will be, continuing to build it and sort of, I would guess, have some sort of more official sign off.
I think this is sort of segueing into
So that's why I just wanted, that was my
the next,
question.
this is segueing into the next section, which was, which I'm happy to do now, but also Wayne, if you have comments, I want to hear them as well. I didn't really have a clear, specific strategic ask other than what I think we discussed last time, which was extending and continuing the study,
Right.
solidifying it, extending it to the parks and open spaces. And then what's the ask to the city? So the city, I thought, could be, the way I phrased it was converting it into the section on the website. Maybe we could rephrase that into formalizing this in some way. Like, I really love what we do to be more publicly easily accessible than the current tracker sheet that we have. I think I specified that like making the website could be one way of doing that, but
Yeah.
that I do want to have that as an, I think that's, I'm glad to hear you say that because that's sort of what I was thinking the city could do.
So I
to-
think we don't know what this, I would just say, I think we don't know at this point what the city, how the city will want to adopt it, use it or whatever. Like, I feel like the next steps that I would see is, we take the product that we've done so far, and we have a final, again, meeting with Anthony, and then, and I will defer to Jane, in some way be bringing it to the council and having a similar presentation that we did, through this committee,
Mhm.
to share it with the council to get their direction. And so that was when I read this, I guess there was a piece of me that wanted to acknowledge that, this is still a work in progress. And I know we do talk about that to extend it for next year, but I felt like we should call out to the fact that the study isn't at this point, to my mind, quote, done as an official, to be used city document.
I agree with that. And yet I think you provided input that it already has been used to prioritize.
Yeah,
work.
yeah, I was just going to chime in with that, that it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's very usable and as a source of information. So there's probably two ways that the city could adopt it or use it. One would be internally, which it's already being used internally, and then the other would be a public-facing document that would maybe, only include relevant, details relevant to the public. And that might be on the city website or something like that, or attached to a map. I think we've talked before about GIS links on sort of different places. Just one more thing to add is that if it was being presented to City Council, I would say that it might be an idea to also provide recommendations for how it could be adopted, sort of the format.
And I knew you were using it sort of moment to moment operationally, which is fabulous. Of course, that was a huge piece of what we wanted, but I felt like the next steps would probably require a different, and I just wanted to be sure that we were acknowledging that someplace as a question.
Yeah. So Tony, the question I have, because I agree, I think sooner than later, I think it would be good to see the presentation to the city council or some shortened version of it, like Charlie just gave one lane here as an example. But my question is, as we move forward with the study of all infrastructure for the city, do you see that their extensive, detailed work is something that fits in with that study? Or is it on top of it? Is it next to it? How do you see what they've done support or be entirely different from what that study is?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because that's the other sort of big piece of sort of information that we're going to be using in Public Works. And I have some of their draft reports for different sites and facilities, but I don't have the one for lanes yet. So I am interested to see how they kind of classify the different components of each lane and how they assess the condition of each of those. My feeling is that it probably won't be as detailed as this, actually, as this.
Yeah,
survey.
so I mean, I think one of the reasons why I think it would be important to share it with the city council is because as we begin to assess this information from the study, I mean, does it supplant it? Does it add to it so they don't have to do the lane study? Do they just do a cursory lane study? It saves us some money. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know, I think it's a good idea for you to think about that and
Yeah.
maybe figure out how it would fit together or
yes,
not.
Yeah.
Because really what they did is so extensive and detailed.
right.
I think that's a good point, but I don't think Marika and I were looking at to the level of detail I would
Right.
hope on some of like the structural
Right,
integrity
right,
type
right.
stuff
No,
that I
no,
think
and
that
you
we wouldn't
shouldn't.
want to replace.
Right, right.
That's what we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting when I presented it, and we also talked about the new study coming out, which was that it sounded like the approaches were somewhat different, meaning we were looking sort of at usability and all sorts of different assets, whether it was lighting and it was views and it was, evacuating, all the various things.
Mhm.
But what we couldn't, because we're not professionals, is
Right.
address the structural, whatever status of stairways and railings. And that seemed that was a little bit more like what the
Real engineering. Yeah,
was
right,
doing.
right.
And so that was why we sort of, I came away thinking that they were complementary.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. That's,
Creating
yeah,
a sort
would
of
agree.
full picture from
Yep.
different-
definitely. And the engineer might not comment on the sign looking deteriorated,
Yes,
right?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
But yeah, which would be less, which is more about usability.
Yeah.
Yep, and the goals as well, I think, like, usability, and on their side, it's putting numbers down on paper for costs for the next 20 years. Yeah, so they overlap, but eventually, yeah, I think complementary is the right word.
I'm sort of feeling that my specific clear actionable recommendation was fairly prescriptive in terms of it needs to be added to the website. And I could see a version being like us asking city council to engage with us on evaluating the future of this lane survey and formalizing it in some public consumable fashion, and then an internal process. And like maybe the ask is that for the time at city council to present on both the findings we had and then have a discussion with them and engage on like how we could make this publicly useful. And to the website end, that could be just one idea I have. But I'm imagining on city website, if you go to the parks and open spaces section, you should list all the lanes and you can click into it, see a picture of it, get some details. Same thing with the park. And I think that would be a really useful resource, but that's only one of several things that we could engage with city council on.
And I think even having something in, I know now we're going back and forth between 2026 and 2025, but I think
Yeah.
something as far as 2025, sort of saying the survey was completed by the Lane Subcommittee
Yep.
and is, ready for presentation, is, for use, for its next steps to determine use citywide and request that review in that meeting. And then, and then the rest all makes sense to me, but I think saying both up front that
Mhm.
it's completed but needs some sort of next steps with the city makes sense to me.
I know that that there has been discussion in the committee about a map, an official map.
Yep.
And certainly this would inform, developing an official map or official brochure that could be used, that could be distributed, and also, be online.
To the extent that part of our work was to, look at what were, as we talked about, inactive or unusable, and all the different sort of ways that, things that we came out to update what is on, because part of what started this was we have like 5 maps in 5 different places that are all, none of which that are inconsistent and none of which necessarily cover all usable lanes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Well, which I did try to address a little bit. I said, I called it various city maps, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's how we need it. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments on 2025 before we get into more specifics on 26? Wayne or Nick or anyone else? No. Okay. All right. Again, just to recap, I am sort of feeling a conversion of my prescriptive, making it to the website into more formally presenting to the council on this, engaging with us on them. I'm also thinking, why not just do that in this meeting? Why make it 2 meetings? Should we just turn this presentation into, this was our finding and results, and walk through the slides rather than do it in 2 meetings?
I think
Okay.
I think so, but I mean, I don't remember how long it took.
That's true, because they do
And-
want this to be part of my recap. of
Right,
last
so
year.
you would be giving your recap and then you're talking about what's next. But like I said, maybe you can give a few examples that that really get the point across
Yep.
without doing a 20-minute, because that won't work. But you could probably,
It's 20 minutes, but you could definitely shorten it.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
I'm just using an amount of time.
I know,
But I think, you could, if you could do it in 10 to 15 minutes, I think it would be great to have them understand what you've done and how useful it's been already. And I just think they'd find it really interesting.
Okay, so maybe I'm honing in on our ask to them could be collaborating with our committee on a public facing version of the output of this ongoing study. Do we feel like that's strong enough? Okay. Great. And my other comment before I open it up here, last time I had the cute inform and improve theme. When I put it in paper, it didn't really work. So I think I'm gonna nix that. So I'll stop there to see if people have other comments on 2026.
I would add one thing to this, the city should be concerned about a little bit. And that's just, again, we talked about the fruit trees, as I went back and looked. Some of the fruit trees that appear most problematic are probably city owned. And so that's a non-trivial liability problem. It's only gonna show up in the fall. See this, so it would be nice to know where the city owned fruit trees are making some of those staircases incredibly slow.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if we need the survey for that. I know that the survey does talk about, I think, landscaping, but it doesn't really. I didn't see any for the notes in there referring to those, and it's really season dependent, probably. If different time, yeah. Yeah, and I know because I've worked with Jane before on other plum trees that have been problem trees that we have removed. But yeah, absolutely, we want to remove anything more that's causing. And I know there are at least a couple.
Yeah, I think Tony and I worked on 3 to 4 lanes last year to make sure that the plum trees weren't overhanging the stairs.
Yeah,
But it's always, and I was thinking, I don't think you have to wait till the fall, because don't little flowers come out on the tree?
And also, well, no, I was gonna say an arborist.
Yeah, an arborist would know how to look at a leaf. Maybe we, yeah, okay.
I'm not an official arborist, but I could tell you for the most part.
okay,
which ones, just
there you
based
go.
on looking at
Yeah,
the leaf, and I'm
right.
sure Tony did too. I just will say that we, as part of the survey, did not focus on that. And when I talked about, what I was talking about, usually about landscaping and trees, I was focused on.
Is your mic on?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Push. Oh,
Yeah.
I was focused more on overhanging,
Right.
intruding into the walkway, impeding views, which includes some of the plum trees as well. But I was not talking about debris.
Okay. My take is I don't know that the city council needs to opine necessarily on this particular work. This feels like it would come up in our routine business with Tony as it relates to this, but we could, looking at tree work, that sort of header is fairly vague. Is it possible to elaborate what is intended for that section?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
And could we say some of this could including looking into fruit tree issues here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, it would probably be something like, because I think a lot of it is to do with views and blocking views from the lanes.
Okay.
But that and
And blocking lighting. There was also a
and
big-
light,
a
right.
lighting was a big
Oh,
piece
yeah,
of it.
yeah,
That
true.
was a big piece of what I was focused on
Yeah,
during the
totally.
survey. It was lighting.
Yeah. But yeah, it'd be easy to just write the 2 or 3 reasons that there will be tree work happening.
Yeah.
I would say one thing I I didn't really know how to address this necessarily in this section was, we talked about, there's a number, one of the findings was there's a number of signs that are deteriorated, signs that are missing. Did we have to, in this letter, say, the committee plans to look into this and fix this sort of our own gumption? Or is this where it's like, dear city, we'd like your permission to fix these deteriorated signs next year? Or are we able to just do this by virtue of our working relationship with Department of Public Works?
I'd like to think so, for
Okay.
sure.
I think so,
Yeah,
too.
That's
and-
what I figured
yeah.
too. That
Well,
for
I mean,
me
the
was-
city
yeah.
council just wants an annual report
want-
from you more than a request to
Perfect.
do something.
That's how I
Right.
wrote it. I said,
Yeah.
we're gonna do this, we're gonna.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And if you'd like to add that as well to the, the list that I made up there of the handrail repairs, tree
Oh,
work
yeah,
and all that.
missing-
we could
okay.
get- Signage could be perhaps another heading.
Would you be able to give me a list of the top ranked signs that are like missing and deteriorated
Yes.
to put into the
Yeah,
section?
I guess I would, I could.
Okay.
But I think my preference would just be signage. I would just put, prioritize and address.
Rather
um,
than in.
damaged or missing signs.
Right.
Okay.
I think at this point.
Rather
I-
than enumerated,
Because
okay.
that's not really, to me, the tree work and the concrete street repairs, that's dollars right there.
Okay,
The signage to me is not, very little dollars.
okay, well, I already
no
have this
dollars.
as a sentence then.
So.
Yeah, you have it
I
there.
would just leave it where it is, to address signage issues, engaging with, to paint and install.
Okay,
And
And
yeah, I'll just chime in that it absolutely makes sense to have it as a sort of an action item for 2026 when it has been highlighted. You're saying that it's been highlighted by the survey, so
Yeah.
it should be one of the action items.
okay, great.
yeah, and then we can decide as time goes on, as we, what ones to prioritize, not just be based on survey.
Okay.
Right.
The other thing I'm saying again in this section, which is below that sort of boxed recommendation, is that what we discussed last time, we plan to continue to extend the survey to cover open spaces and lanes. And Jane, maybe this is worth chatting about. We want to be strategic about our prioritized ideas for the open spaces and lanes. And I think we as a committee feel like we need more time to look into that.
Mhm.
And that would include something like Centennial Park, Oak Mini Park, these other open spaces that we haven't done this extensive survey into.
Mhm.
So my thought is in this letter, we would do this, say that we've already planned to do this, and then probably by next year, if not sooner, we'll have suggested improvements for those areas.
We'll just incorporate them into the study, meaning.
Incorporate
extend-
them into the study,
Extend
yeah.
the study to address, to, cover them in the same way. And then we'll be able to use that for priorities for next year.
Okay, so we leave this, I would say, without like a clear, we request this budget. And I'm sort of feeling like that's fine, given what Tony told us about how the budget has been already pre-allocated for lane maintenance every year. Is that fair to say, Tony? I remember you said
Yes,
there's like
yeah.
some, okay. so
Yeah,
it's
the
not like
budget's
we
been
need to use
structured
this to
now.
advocate for,
And really, I would say everything that you've listed definitely falls under Tony's purview
Yep.
when he discusses the budget, which he does. I think where the city council representative would push for Parks, Open Space and Lane is more when, like with Centennial Park, which is a really large project, which, will require several phases.
Mhm.
It's not going to be a one-time thing. I think I've been thinking about it a lot, and I think it may become a phased project over a year or two, and would require, hiring a landscape architect to get ideas, focus, know how much it would cost. We have to understand the size of what the parcel is, but I'm sure you have that information. And then once that happened, I think we can actually apply for grants and look into something like that, that are available. I've reached out to a few people, and it turns out MMWD has grants when you become more water savvy in what you plant and things like that. So
Cool.
I think there's a lot of good ideas out there that, like I said, it would probably become a phased project.
So could I incorporate that by making it very clear that we're going to extend the study to cover open spaces and parks, including some known projects like Centennial Park that merit more strategic thinking and possibly might need to take a tiered phased approach? I can
And
just sort of
I
leave it at
think
that.
because Centennial was there last year,
Exactly.
that it's fine to say, we now have the bandwidth essentially, because we were taken up with Artist View longer than we expected.
Okay,
And
I think
so
it's a
I-
good,
You
it's
know,
a
I
good call out.
think the bandwidth for Centennial Park, now that can move a little higher on the.
I think that's great.
It's actually- You're gonna mention Centennial Park.
Do you have the mic on?
If you're gonna mention Centennial Park in passing, it probably is worth a warning to the city council, so they don't get blindsided that the other issue that's gonna come up that will be, I think, high profile, and that's that SUP launch. And not saying that you're taking any position on it, other than we've agreed to confer with Tiburon about it.
Yep.
But to me, it would just be nice to give people a heads up.
I think it's a good acknowledgement that it has come up and they are pursuing it. And the latest I've heard is that they're looking into Bramble Beach, but I think we are still waiting for committee member Sherm's presentation on the latest findings, which we'll do at our next meeting. But that's probably a good call out that this is, I would say, in the air right now. Nick, did you have something?
Well, just with the, kind of building on what Wayne was saying, previewing and giving them heads up. It seems like last year we previewed Centennial.
Yep.
And we're going to move forward with something.
Yep.
So what's this year's recommendation what's the Centennial of this year to preview for next year, in other words?
Yeah, if last year the focus was Artist View and moving that forward and then simultaneously doing continuing with lanes.
Yeah.
This year, I don't think we have a clear, this is the thing you need to account for yet. It's more,
And that's a conscious decision.
I think I personally think that's a conscious decision, but we've made a big investment in our understanding of what the strategic priorities are. So there's other things that came out of that study that we could prioritize. For example, there are unused, potentially usable lanes that we could, but we're not saying to focus on that in 2026. Because I don't think we have a strategic point of view yet on what the request to the city would be.
But should we? I guess it's a missed, we do this
Yeah.
once a year. I
Yeah.
feel like we're missing an opportunity. I mean, and we can certainly, in other words, is that our job
Yeah.
to come up with one? Belvedere
Did
Way.
your survey show that there were, like what Nick's saying, did it show there were, I don't know, 2 or 3 that could be more usable if
Definitely.
something was changed or updated, other than handrails, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
I really see these things as their
Yeah,
normal maintenance.
Yeah.
at
And
least to
so-
get it
Things that
on
are-
the track in the papers so that there's some continuity.
I mean, I would say, to answer Jane, your question, I mean, absolutely. I think, he mentions it in the review up here. A perfect example of, that we've all talked about a number of times is all about, access to water.
Yeah.
Right.
And a key, and just a question around evacuation as well as public enjoyment. And so, for example, there's 5 usable lanes, but only 1 currently provides public access, meaning there's, 5 that have either been active or are, barely active. And so I think, to your point, Nick, I think I'm not sure how, at this point, given where we are with the survey, meaning that we haven't as a committee officially digested it, in that way. But what we could say, I mean, the whole point of the survey is to inform. And so what we could say is that our goal is to prioritize,
These 4 lanes
or,
that you're.
yeah, understanding,
yeah.
I mean, it could be prioritizing water access, or it could be, prioritizing,
Should,
making usable, key lanes, and that we're going to review the study to do that. But I just don't know how at this time now, we'd be able to come up with those, any specific.
I guess I would point out, Artist View's not built yet. And I hate to take on,
Really?
I looked, nobody's drilled any holes out there. So I'd hate to take on new projects,
Yeah.
new complaints, new public issues until we kind of finish with the project, show people what we
Yeah.
can do.
Fair. I was more of thinking of like like being a little more specific conceptually versus taking on a new project. Just because Artist View has been in these papers for, 50 years, right? And I just see like, and so not like, hey, we're going to do X, Y, or Z, but something a little more concrete, a little more specific. The following lanes, we want to, prioritize and highlight in the community's eyes, and maybe that is,
Or maybe we are, that a big piece of and this is just an idea, the big piece of the survey, of course, was to identify,
yeah,
usability for both, safety and access, as well as just general public enjoyment. And so, one thing we could call out is using the outcome of the survey to determine, the most important
yeah,
projects. And so we use this year, rather than choosing one already, we use this year to put the city on notice that, like Centennial Park, for example, has been chosen and has been
yeah,
focused on. Well, that was chosen a couple of years ago. We're still following it through. It would be, so the question, I think, to your point is, what's the next Centennial Park?
yeah.
Right? But I'm not sure we're at a place right now, based on what we've done, to call it out. So how could we call out that we
Yeah.
are doing that?
I think
fair
you raise a really good point where Artist View Centennial Park, they've been telegraphed and
Mhm.
prioritized for a large number of years. There is a missed opportunity if we don't identify what we seem to be converging on in some sense, and I think access to water, those 4 lanes, is one of those things that we should alert the city council to. My hesitation in doing that initially was like, oh, it's not really actionable immediately, but maybe it doesn't have to be. We can sort of carve it out and say, this is going to be a strategic focus for us based on this. And we expect that we will come to you next year with an actionable recommendation based on this. But we are strategically looking into this. The survey suggested it. These are the names of the 4 lanes that have this strategic opportunity for improvement for evacuation and public enjoyment. Would that suffice?
Totally. I guess I was just thinking a little more specificity.
Yeah, I know. I went into this feeling the lack of specificity. So yeah.
Like I said, I just urge caution here. The last time Centennial Park was whispered, we had neighbors. If you try to open up any of these lanes to the water,
Yeah.
you're gonna
Absolutely.
find
Absolutely.
lawyers, lawsuits, and a lot of complaints filed. It's the rights to, it'd be challenging. There'll be legal fees. There's going to be a whole lot to this. So I don't know that we're ready at any point to open this up. We haven't canvassed the neighbors. We haven't done all of those things. It's us saying, hey, we want to do this. I'm deeply concerned that a kind of half-cocked approach at this point in time may bring a rash of neighborhood hatred down on us and undermine more things that we're trying to get finished at this point in time.
Fair enough.
That's sort of how I structured the letter at this point, which was informing around the nature of some of the conclusions that may eventually lead into more specificity over time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Investigates, in other words, you could use there.
investigate. Yeah.
Mhm.
Investigate.
That is a open-ended, open-minded absorption of information.
Yeah. Okay. I think one thing I can do in this recommendation section is better connect to I listed 3 outcomes from the survey, which was like map alignment, and so people can find things, et cetera, access to water, signage, and lighting. And I can connect something in 2026, how we can move forward on all those in some way.
Yeah.
And then if I'm not asking for a specific separate meeting to present to city council on, is there something concrete we could ask? And maybe what I'm getting at is work with us on some public facing product that is an improved version on those maps, whether it's like a better print map or something on the website where people can find and discover these. And maybe that is the only ask.
Sorry, yeah, just to chime in on that. I mean, I think that's something that's that certainly we could request as for some funding for that, to say, you know, a City of Belvedere visitors map, or, you know, something similar that can be developed professionally. You know, the city would engage with designers and, you know, be able to produce something that would come through the committee.
That's great.
That can, at the end of the year or whenever it is, can be published and be ready for.
So one of the things that's going on in the Be Ready Belvedere group, which is our disaster preparedness group, there's a new woman fire person who's the investigator, and what's her other name? What else does she do? She investigates and I forget, does all the codes. Anyway, she has extensive background in creating evacuation maps at Sausalito and for Mill Valley. And I think it would be silly for us to be creating two separate maps when we're pretty small. And because our lanes are connected to the need for evacuation, and that's our point in a lot of this. So I'd like to also let you know that we're going to be asking this Tiburon Fire gal to come and present to Be Ready Belvedere in March. And so it might be a great time, you know, to be efficient and see how she can help us in all of this as well.
Well, March is when the next committee meeting is too. So I could reach out to her and see if she might be able to join us at that meeting.
Okay. Anyway.
And also, I mean, in connection with that, it keeps coming up that, you know, there should be a something, it doesn't have to necessarily be here, but I think creating a bridge, connection between us and the Be Ready Belvedere, that was something we took away from the last meeting. And I think I volunteered to do it. So Jane.
Yeah, I just need to get your dates.
Yeah, you and I need to get on it.
Yep.
But that's, I think, for all sorts of reasons, you know, and
I think
that's something to be.
I mean, I don't want to drop that at
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
Okay. And Jane, will she also, this feeds back to what we're just discussing, also be looking at the need for access off a beach to the water?
I don't
Part
know
of the-
what she'd be looking at. I mean, I just saw her. So Belvedere and Tiburon have a council that was until a couple of days ago was called the Belvedere Tiburon Joint Disaster Agency or something like that. It was cumbersome. So they switched it to the Belvedere Tiburon Emergency Preparedness Council. So they're trying to change it from disaster to preparedness. And I just met her there for 3 minutes after the meeting and asked if she would come to our Be Ready Belvedere group. But so, you know, anything, we didn't discuss anything.
If she's building a map for evacuation purposes, it's probably important to know where the 4 dead ends are.
Where the what?
The 4 dead end paths to the water are.
Yeah, no.
one of
That's
those
why I'm
needs to be
saying
opened
we
up
don't,
or-
I don't want to do two separate things.
Yeah.
We need to work together.
Can we invite her to the next meeting
Sure.
then? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, she's available. She's hired by the Tiburon Fire District, but we're a part of the Tiburon Fire District. So, and she's brand new, so I think she wants to get to know people.
And has funding been requested for her
Nothing.
collaboration and work?
No, we don't need funding for her. We pay them a lot
We
of
pay them,
money.
all right, okay.
Already funded.
So is there something where I'm like, I think akin to Tony's suggestion in this box, we request funding for developing a visitor's map or brochure or an online website, and we think that that amount is X amount of dollars? Like, I don't think we have that level of specificity at this point.
No, not without, I guess, having a better idea of what it would look like. You know, I guess, but I think for this report, you could say that, you know, staff will be requesting a certain amount for this.
Okay.
You know, and I guess ask council to consider it.
And we have until May or something, right?
Okay.
Before,
Well, yeah, I mean, I know it starts going through the sort of the
Different
finance committee
Right.
and all this. But yeah, no, I mean, it's not something we need to provide right now. But just as, you know, from my vantage point, as you discussed this, it did occur to me that the signage that was also brought up from the survey, signage issue, might be able to be connected to the map as well, to a map with a QR code or something on signage, you know, which, you know, could also be for evacuation uses. So, I mean, I think in a way they could, you know, those little dots could connect if you know, which might also make it more interesting or attractive as a funding project.
Yeah,
That's
I was
cool.
gonna mention a couple times, just in general, it was referred to as a visitor's map. To me, is actually first and foremost a community map.
Yeah.
You know, and so let's focus on that, because it really is to serve both for enjoyment as well as, I do think, evacuation and you know, alternative access for the community. And then, of course, it would be available to visitors as well, but the goal being to have a single source of truth map.
Yeah.
That, to me, that's the number one thing, is a single source of truth map that's available to the public, community, or visitors.
Yeah. My dream is that, you know, we can give this to everyone at the emergency evacuation meetings that are in the park, or you can get them at the library or whatever, and everyone just has this map taped up in their garage or something like that. Okay. I think I have enough to recut this. Any other final thoughts?
Without opening up another can of worms, but I guess I will. I think we should put more attention in Belvedere Way Lane, the road that connects.
Yep.
If we're talking about evacuation and stuff, that's just a mess.
So
Between an open culvert, closed culvert, the retaining wall that's caving in.
Yep.
The road that's sliding away, the bench that's basically going to slide down the hill in another rain like that.
which road is that? Sorry.
Belvedere Way.
West Shore, at
Into
the end of
West
West Shore
Shore
going
up
up.
to, the end of West Shore up the hill.
That's my comment. I think that's ripe for improvement.
I would hope that this comes out of what the city's doing on that side of things as well. You know, with our own observations of some of these things,
Yeah.
being non-trained professionals for folks who are looking at this, I imagine, I don't know, have you heard any rumblings in that regard, or we just haven't seen any data back?
We haven't seen anything yet. No, but and I definitely agree. I mean, there are some lanes that would be, you know, really good projects, bigger projects, and a lane like Belvedere Way would be a big project, and it has potential for, you know, sort of, you know, work needs to be done, and there's potential for it to be, you know, really, it's beautiful views. It connects different parts of the city. There's, yeah, it's would be a great project, basically. Yeah.
Fewer neighbors on both sides, and I don't know.
Yeah, I think
That's my full comment.
That's a great comment.
Yeah.
We appreciate that. Okay. Any other comments from the
It
committee?
is covered by the survey and is identified as a valuable,
I just wasn't
lane,
sure,
just saying.
on my theme of more specificity in a report or direction.
And to chime in, I mean, the survey has a lot of great information, but it doesn't really, and I don't think this was the intention really, doesn't sort of highlight specific lanes that would be good candidates for improvements. I mean, it does highlight where deficiencies are, and if there are lanes that are dead-ended or, you know, are unusable, then that it flags those. But in the sense of having existing lanes that would be low-hanging fruit for, you know, spectacular projects, it doesn't really, you know, it doesn't, it's not able to do that.
Well, since I'm going to be doing a mini prezo on the findings, I can pick something like Pagoda, which I think largely is pretty good. And then maybe I'll highlight Belvedere Way and maybe one other one, just sort of show the range.
That would
of
be a
data
great
that's in
idea,
there.
I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Show a range.
Okay. All right, before I open for public comment, anything else from the committee?
I just didn't know if you were going to bring up Joan Beacon's letter that she sent late this afternoon.
I was going to read that
Oh,
at the end.
yeah.
in
You're
public
going
comment.
to.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Like to see if there's anyone in the room who'd like to comment on this discussion. Looks like no. Is there anyone online?
There's no one online.
Okay. Okay, with that, Tony, did you want to read a letter aloud? I guess we're in
Yes.
open forum now. Yeah.
You'll have to
Let
just
me
give me a
read my
minute.
open forum briefing. Open forum, this is an opportunity for any citizen to briefly address the Parks and Open Space Committee on any matter that does not appear on this agenda. Upon being recognized by the chair, please state your name, address, and limit your oral statement to no more than 3 minutes. Matters that appear to warrant a more lengthy presentation or committee consideration may be agendized for further discussion at a later meeting. Is there anyone in the room who'd like to comment in the open forum? Is there anyone online who'd like to comment in the open forum?
There's no one online.
Tony, I understand there might be a letter.
Yes, there was a letter received today from Joan Beacons, and I wanted to just share that. It's very nice letter. Dear members of the Parks and Open Space Commission, also known as the Parks, Open Space and Lanes Committee, thank you once again for your approval of the drinking fountain I have donated to the city of Belvedere. It has just been installed in the small Belvedere Park across from the San Francisco Yacht Club. I'm now asking your permission to attach a second small bronze plaque to the side of the tower of the fountain that would express my gratitude to the following. Thanks to Hadley Construction, Belvedere Public Works, Belvedere Community Foundation. Your commission has already approved the small bronze plaque I requested that will be attached on a small flat space on top by the middle drinking bowl, positioned like the one on the fountain at the corner of San Rafael Avenue and West Shore Road. It has 5 words, donated by the Beacons family. The plaques will blend in with the pebble earth tones of the drinking fountain. With thanks for all that you do, Joan Beacons. And I would add that the approvals for that plaque come under a section of the city policy for commemorative plaques and commemorative donations. The plaque that she's proposing here, I don't think is a commemorative plaque, and the approval for the existing plaque, I think, is probably sufficient. I don't think we need to go through the process for a second plaque. And I have I've let her know that as well. But it's definitely well received. It's always nice to receive thanks.
Thank you. That's great. I think the fountain looks amazing. I love the pebble tones. It looks really good. Is there any?
Will the bench be able to go back in that part that's all yellow cordoned off or not?
No, unfortunately. Well, the bench will go back, but not to that spot. So there'll still be 2 benches over there. We might have to rearrange the bench on the other side and the trash can, sort of rearrange the furniture a little bit to fit it in. The issue right there is that we need to be able to get drive the mower in through that gap. So yeah, that's we just need to figure it out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I think that covers it. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Any seconds?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. Got it.